Hello everyone, welcome to the webinar. We will begin shortly. So this is the pre-webinar presentation. The webinar will start at 5 o'clock. In the meantime, please introduce yourself in the chat window. Where are you from? What do you do? And what you are expecting from this session? Welcome Vidushi, welcome Neha, welcome Aruna. Nice meeting everyone. Good evening. Hello Neha. Hello Priya. Good morning Nishad. Welcome. Thank you so much for joining us from Toronto. Welcome Dilip. Please do introduce yourself with what you do and what are you expecting from the session. Great. Thank you so much. We will begin. Learning and exposure for teachers and educators has been the inspiration behind FIRKI's webinars. You can go through different webinars learning parts conducted on the portal. The link to the same will be pasted on the chat box soon. We believe that your time is valuable and we want to acknowledge that your presence in this session and will also be providing our participants with a certificate of attendance. This is made available to the participants who attend the entire session. We will share more details on how to fill the feedback form and access the certificate towards the end of the webinar. You can join the webinar on two platforms, Zoom and YouTube. The YouTube live link will be pasted shortly in the chat window by one of our team members. Thank you, Navya. Now I'll take you through a few features on Zoom that you can use to have an engaging and productive session. So this is the mic button. You can click this to keep yourself muted. Unmute only if the speaker asks you to. This is the video button. You can switch on and off your video with. You can share your questions and thoughts in the chat window. I will be here to curate your questions and share them with the speakers. Participants who are joining us on YouTube can share their comments in the comment section that will be shared with the speaker on Zoom soon. After the webinar, we would encourage you to talk to people around you on what you have learned today. We remember best when we share our learnings with others. Practice learning from the webinar in your work. Watch the recording of the webinar and resources on www.firki.co or Firki app. Attend the next Firki webinar. Sign up on www.firki.co to get updates. That brings us to the end of the pre-webinar presentation. Let us begin the webinar now. Hello everyone, this is the DTU FIRKI webinar series and we are delighted to have you join us for today's episode titled Role of Visual Arts in Enhancing Children's Development in partnership with Saturday Art Class. I am your host Tasneem. I work at FIRKI. I will be your guide in this webinar to help you navigate through it. I would like to take a quick moment to share the objectives of today's webinar. In this webinar, we will explore the role of visual arts and socio-emotional learning on our children's learning and development. It will also explore best practices to aid educators in creating safe and joyous learning spaces in classrooms through visual arts and SEL. We now come to introductions of our speaker today, Kritika and Tanushree. Kritika has 8+ years of experience in education and mental health. At Saturday Art Class, her expertise lies in forging strategic partnerships, collaborating with educational institutions, and educator capacity building. Kritika also brings a deep understanding of human behavior and a strong skill set in guiding and supporting individuals facing diverse challenges. She holds a bachelor's degree in psychology and an advanced counseling diploma, and is a catalyst for integrating mental health into educational settings, advocating for holistic development. Tanushree Patel is a monitoring and evaluation manager at Saturday Art Class with 5+ years of experience working in the development sector across domains of education, public health, rural housing, and sustainable energy. In her role at Saturday Art Class, she has designed and created training and experiential spaces for educators and students, and is also leading the research and development into outcomes that emerge through visual arts and ACL engagement for children. She is a Teach for India alumna and holds degrees in urban planning and public administration. As we move to the webinar, I have a few requests for our participants as well. We request you to keep your cameras on for effective interaction. To avoid disturbance, we request you to keep your mics off unless speakers asks you to unmute. Use the Q&A function to ask a question or raise hand to say something. Participate enthusiastically throughout the session. Thank you. Hope you have an interesting evening and a great webinar. I now give it over to the speakers. Welcome Kritika and welcome Tanush.
Thank you, Tasneem. I am quickly going to screen share and just without any further ado, begin our webinar for the day. Yes. I hope all of you can see my screen. So before we begin, thank you everybody for being present at this webinar. It means a lot to us to be able to share our idea, our thoughts about visual arts and how it can help in developing a child's learning through their academic years. Before we begin, just one small request. I hope all of you are sitting with a paper, pencil, notebook, anything that will enable you to draw during the session, because it's a visual arts aided webinar. Quickly, I'm just going to wait for 30 seconds. And if you already have it with you, please give me a thumbs up. Please use the reaction buttons as much as possible. I believe the chat box is open for us to communicate. So please feel free to keep typing in the chat box so that we know what is happening with everybody on this webinar. Thank you. Thank you for giving me a thumbs up. Quickly, I'm just going to wait for another 10 seconds. Please just quickly grab whatever you can. Okay, so before I begin with the webinar and the whole topic for the evening, I'm quickly going to introduce about Saturday Art Class and why do we exist. So we believe that every child, no matter from where they come, they deserve a safe space to be able to create, to be able to express, so that there is no judgment, so that there's no fear of what their thoughts are, their feelings are, their emotions are. To do that, we want to be able to create an environment where the child can create with confidence, and they can create whatever they want without, like I said, having a sense of judgment around them. How do we make that possible is to provide access to visual arts to these students in their formative years, because we believe that this is where a child can actually be molded and can be actually helped to go beyond their own thoughts, where there is no restriction of any sort. Just want to quickly also introduce our programs that we have for our participants. We have three flagship programs. The first one is the Art for Educator program, which actually focuses at capacitating educators to be able to take art into their classroom. The next one is Art Labs. It is our research and development wing, where we actually go on ground to check how effective our program has been and make necessary changes in the curriculum, keeping the context of our children in mind. And lastly, we have our Art a Day vertical, which is also a workshop model, where we host series of workshops for our participants to create exposure and awareness for arts, visual arts, and social emotional learning. So before we begin, I'm going to quickly start a poll for all of you. And the poll has a series of statements. I just want you to read the statements and mark if you've heard those statements before or if you've not heard those statements before. That's it. We'll just take 3 minutes for this poll. So Tessim, if you could just launch the poll for us. I see that the poll has already been launched, and I'm just going to read the questions on the poll. The first statement actually is that there is no career in art. So what's the point in learning it? Why are your colors going outside the outline? please color inside the line. And not everyone is an artist. So if you've heard these statements, you give a yes, I have heard them. If you've not heard them, you give a no, I've not heard them. I see a lot of us have heard these statements. I'm going to keep this poll open for another 30 seconds. Everybody who's not done or marked your responses, please just quickly add in your responses. All right. So I'm going to quickly close the poll because I see most of us have responded to the poll. And Tasneem, if you could just launch the result of the poll for everybody. So I hope everybody can see the poll results. And now that I'm looking at it, I can see that most of us have heard this in our life where somebody has said that there is no career in art, so there's no point in actually learning about it. Or in school, if we were drawing, or in college, whenever we were engaged in arts, we must have heard people say that, hey, you're coloring outside the line, please color it inside, you can't color it out. And lastly, we must again have heard where I have heard these things where people have told me that not everybody is an artist. So, what's the point? Why are you doing all this? Thank you so much for responding to these questions. And the idea behind having this poll, or the idea behind asking all of you to reflect on this question, is also because that there is a certain type of narrative that is built around art. And we believe and we know that we've been kept in a restricted box when it comes to art. And just to break this box open, or just to have all of you think about what art can make possible, I'm quickly going to ask you a question. What, according to you, is the role of visual arts in education? If all of you can put it in your chat boxes, or if you want to unmute and share, that's also fine. And just to reiterate, there is no right or no wrong answer. So whatever is your thought, it's valid. So please feel free to share what is your idea, or what do you think is the role of visual arts? Yes, Jitendra Kaur sir, ma'am, you have raised your hand. You want to respond? Okay, I don't think ma'am or sir is responding. Sonia has also raised her hand, and Neha has also raised her hand. If you could quickly just tell me.
Hi.
Yeah.
So I think visual art is very important because it helps you understand things better. For me, I'm a visual learner, so it helps me understand and learn better.
Thank you so much for
Thank
sharing,
you.
Sonia. For a lot of us, seeing something and learning is a type of learning, and we learn best when we see things. Neha, do you also want to share?
Yes, so I do agree with her. And I would like to add one point, that if we close our eye, we don't see the words. We remember the picture. Even in dreams, also words does not come. Picture comes. Even we can help growing learner and fast learner both. Maybe I'm the one, my English is not that good. But still, if I watch and I listen, by the help of picture, I will try to assume, I will try to infer. But if it is that English, maybe if I'm not the English background one, then it will create problem for me. And hence I have joined your this webinar for the same reason. So I can learn something.
Thank you, Neha. Thank you, Sonia, for sharing. I see a lot of you have said that it gives an outlet for creativity. It's a space for expression. It's spaces where students can relax. And absolutely everything that everybody has wrote on the chat box is absolutely right. Now, just to understand this role a little more, and also because we are Saturday art class, we cannot leave the webinar without doing any art. So I hope you're all sitting with paper and pen, and this is where we're going to now go into an art activity. So I hope you're all ready. And I have one simple prompt for you. We have 2 minutes. You just have to draw an elephant. आप सबको एक elephant बनाना है इन 2 मिनटों में. And I'm just going to start the watch right now. In 2 minutes, draw whatever you can.
I have done.
Sorry. If we are done, we will take another 1 minute because it's a 2-minute activity. If you've already done, please give me a thumbs up so that I know and I can cut short time also. I'm going to wait for another 30 seconds. In 30 seconds, please feel free to add things to your elephant if you want to. Otherwise, we're good to go. Ten, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and that's it. That's time up for us to draw an elephant. I'm going to request all of you, those who can switch their cameras, videos on. Can you switch your videos on and show me the elephant that you have drawn? And also look at other people who have drawn the elephant, so you get an idea of what elephants look like for everybody. I see some really amazing elephants on the screen, and it's amazing. This is lovely artwork. Great. I'm waiting for 10 more seconds because I see people are still sharing their artwork. So I'm just going to wait for 10 more seconds. Amazing. Thank you so much for sharing your artworks. And before we go ahead, I have one question for all of you. Can you all tell me that while you were drawing your elephant, what are certain things that you thought about when you started putting your elephant on the paper? Anybody who can just basically unmute and share?
Hi, this is Nilima.
Hi.
So the basic thought that comes to my mind when I think of an elephant is the huge body of the elephant, then the big ears, the tusk, the trunk, and the tiny eyes, and the 4 legs with a tiny tail. So this is how I think of an elephant.
Perfect. I think all of us agree that this is how we think of an elephant. Ki sabse pehle we think about the trunk, the tusk, the tail, the ears, the size of the elephant. How am I going to fit it in the paper? It's so huge. Typically, when somebody says draw an elephant, hum yehi sochte hai that there's an elephant standing or the elephant is in a jungle, and through books, through videos that we've seen through our schooling years. And typically when we go to draw an elephant, this is something that we want to draw. We want our elephant to look something like that elephant that is on the screen. But can my elephant also look like this? Can my elephant be a handprint and just make sure that there is, because I can use my thumb to show creativity in terms of a trunk. Can I have an elephant which is just an outline of an elephant and there is a lot of pattern inside the elephant? Did any of us think about drawing the elephant in a very different manner? Did any of us think that there can be another way to draw an elephant? I did see somebody draw an elephant with wings. So can I request that person to just unmute and tell me, what were you thinking when you drew an elephant with the wings? If that person wants to, I don't quite know who showed it, but if you can unmute and share, it'll be really, really great. The participant who drew elephant with the wings. No pressure. It's all right. It's absolutely okay if you don't want to share. But I just want to highlight or bring this to our notice or our awareness that every time when somebody says draw something, we always go back to what we have learned or what we know. We do not want to challenge our imagination. We do not want to challenge our creativity. And we do not want to go beyond the box that is already created for us. So we don't want you to be in a stressful environment where you have to think about how to fit that elephant on a piece of paper. I'm going to request you to take another 2 minutes and draw the elephant that you want. So your elephant could be sitting, your elephant could be sleeping, your elephant could be hiding behind a wall, for all I know. So take 2 minutes and draw an elephant using your creativity, your imagination. If you want to add elements in your already existing elephant, please do that. But just take 2 minutes to break free from all the clutches of creativity that have been put onto you. Awesome. We're going to take 10 seconds to draw and close our elephants out. And if somebody wants to share with us that what is different in your elephant this time, how does your elephant look differently, or is it the same elephant that you would want to stick with? You can use the chat box, you can use your microphones, unmute and share with us. We're more than happy to hear your thoughts.
Yeah, Kritika, I'd like to share.
Yes, please.
So, the minute you said break free, suddenly I thought of the elephant in terms of a Ganesha. And, I just drew an abstract Ganesha, and the feeling was the first time I did such a lousy job of it. That's why I never showed it. But the second time, I'm kind of really happy with what I did. So I guess I hear what you're saying.
Do you want to show us your elephant?
Oh my God, you will die if you see it. But
I don't think anybody will die.
Okay. Did you see it?
Yes.
It's a Chotu Ganesha, yeah.
It is lovely. It is amazing. I see all of you. There is an elephant with wings flying. I don't know what all your creativity and imagination can go up to. There's an elephant with hearts. That is so amazing. Neha, I think you've raised your hand. You want to share your thoughts?
Yes, I was just saying this time I added tree there because whenever we see elephant, so we see, in movies, elephant, they always go with bundles, right? Heavy load. So that's how I drew it. Plus, we all know about tree. That tree always help us. And same happens like we all do worship of Lord Ganesha. So I have joined all these things. So my imagination says that trees are selfless. Same, God is also selfless because, when we do worship, doesn't matter whether like we are Christian, Hindu or what. Whenever we pray before Lord, we always get satisfaction. So that's how I made the combination of tree and elephant. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I saw somebody had shown a video where their elephant was watching television, and on the television there was Ganesha. I think Nilima is showing her elephant with some very nice Indian descriptive art on it. I think all of you have created elephants that go beyond the convention of drawing an elephant. And this is exactly what we wanted all of you to do. Thank you for breaking that barrier. Thank you for opening those doors of imagination and creativity. I'm just going to leave you all with one thought before we move on to our webinar. I would want to know from you that why should we create classrooms that have visual art as a part of it? Or how is this going to benefit you as educators, teachers, humans that work with students? How do you think that's going to benefit you? Again, the chat box is open. If you want to kind of unmute and share, that is also possible.
Nilima here again. I feel it is much more easier to convey, our imagination or our thoughts through visual art. This is
Perfect.
what I think of.
I think I completely second your thought. And when everybody was sharing their reactions when they drew the second elephant, I think most of you shared that you felt happy. You didn't feel the stress. I need to draw an elephant in a certain manner only. There's a sense of liberation. Just to add on to the same thing, that even if today when somebody talks about water cycle to me, I don't think the definition of water cycle comes to my mind, but what comes to my mind is actually the pictorial representation of what a water cycle looks like. So just to delve deeper into this entire context and concept of how visual arts can aid our students, I'm going to invite my co-facilitator, Tanushree, to take us onto this journey.
Thank you so much, Kritika. First of all, thank you so much to all the participants here for engaging with us. It is just so beautiful to hear from all of you about your perception of visual arts, the need for them for our children. Just to dive deeper into understanding the role that visual arts can play in our classrooms, I would like to share, first of all, the current reality that we face in our education system at large. So based on our certain research that we identified that India at present ranks at 99th position when it comes to creativity and when it comes to talent. At the same time, a survey by UNESCO also identified that 86% of our students from classes 3 to class 8, they lack skills of problem solving. There's an absence of reflection, which also shows that our spaces at present, they lack in terms of fostering the skills that are needed for our children to thrive. 75% of our students from classes 6 to 12, they shared that they struggle with empathy and underconfidence, which also shows that there are very limited opportunities for our students for socio-emotional learning within the classroom environment. So our idea for this began from the classroom itself, like how do we create spaces for children in classrooms, which makes them feel safe, which makes them feel happy, which makes them experience that they are free of all the barriers that we all shared about. Like they are free of it's a safe space for them to bring in their own thoughts, own ideas, own imagination, own creativity. So Saturday Art Class as an organization, since the last 6 years, we have been working with children and we have been making our efforts to provide them access to visual arts and socio-emotional learning within the classroom environment, making it part of their learning process as well. Through that journey, we identified that there are certain outcomes that we started seeing in our children building over a period of time. And these outcomes are the outcomes which are crucial for every child to basically help the child grow. And it creates a bridge when a child transitions from a school environment to a real life, to a workplace, to a college. These are the outcomes which are really crucial for them. A lifelong learning skills that the child needs to thrive in the present world. Now, for the next couple of minutes, I'm going to talk about each of this outcome and how this manifests into our classrooms at present. How are we seeing the behaviors in our children at present in our classroom, which can be enabled by visual arts itself. Next, please. Yes, joy. So joy is the first and foremost outcome that we always talk about when it comes to visual arts, when it comes to socio-emotional learning. We saw our children just engaging in that classroom when they are asked to express or draw something which is very unique to them. Children feel a sense of pride just by starting from raising hands to, oh, I want to talk about this. Ye artist mujhe pasand hai, ya ye color mujhe pasand hai, isliye maine yahan pe use kiya. Certain statements starting from this to children talking something which is very important to them, children representing something that is very important to them. We have seen joy being manifested into our classrooms. Joy also comes into our classroom into forms where just children feel safe, children feel happy to be there. Like if there's an art class this week, the children will be asking for the next art class. Ki Didi, when is the next class is happening? That eagerness that we see in our children, has been manifested just by giving them simple access to create something which is very unique to them. Next, please. Imagination. When it comes to visual arts, imagination is something that comes straight to our mind. Today, also, a lot of you all shared that art is a medium for imagination, for creativity, for children to talk about that. So children are naturally creative, like given that space for them to thrive. Using basic prompts, using basic questions, asking children something very unique about themselves gives them the space to be very imaginative. For example, in some of our lesson plans, we take inspiration from a lot of artists. For example, there's a world-renowned artist named Vasily Kandinsky. So Kandinsky uses a lot of lines, a lot of shapes, a lot of colors in his artwork. So just to teach the children different art elements, we give the children exposure to different artists as well. Now, taking inspiration from that, we ask children to use a lot of lines, and at the same time to foster imagination in our classroom, or create a sense of game or an activity in the classroom. We ask different children to draw different lines in the paper that they identified from the artist's artwork. Once that is done, the children share the paper amongst each other in the classroom. So everyone gets a different sheet of paper, a line which they might have not drawn. Now, we ask the children to create a scene or create a drawing that is something unique from the line given to them. So here from the example in the middle, we can see just by a waving line, some child created a scenery out of that. That line looked like a mountain to that child. So the child thought, hey, let me draw a scenery out of it. Similarly, we saw multiple examples. For example, just having a zigzag line, the children turned the paper and made it into a staircase, and the staircase was leading to the classroom which the child loved. So just giving simple prompts, asking children to think something on their own brings out a lot of imagination, which also stimulates their creative thinking as well. Another such example of the same is we introduce children to artist Kimi Cantrell. So Kimi uses a lot of materials, recycled materials, to make masks out of it. And Kimi also uses a lot of shapes and colors in his artwork. On the right, we see multiple interpretations of what the children have created. Children drew masks, but the shapes they used were very unique to them. The unique elements, I can see some children drawing bubbles, clouds, a national flag, dividing the face into multiple shapes, using different crayons to just draw something which was very unique to them. The expressions that I saw on each mask was very different. Just giving the children space to create something, take inspiration from somewhere, create something out of it, and bring that together, brings in a lot of creative thinking, brings in a lot of imagination into our classrooms as well. Next, please. Then comes critical thinking. Art enables a lot of reflection. Whenever it comes to art, children try to make connections with themselves, what they have seen, what are the things they see around themselves. They analyze what they are seeing, they interpret what they are seeing. For example, when we talk about any artist, an art form, or an artwork, children instantly try to make connections with what they know, what they already feel about that artwork. So whenever we show any image, the children say, hey, I've seen this somewhere. Hey, I know what this is. I think this looks like a fan. I think this looks like something else. So these are some of the personal connections that the children generally make with what is being shown to them as well. One such beautiful example of this that manifested into one of our classroom was a child drawing a comic strip. So here, this was an art class, but the child learned what the child had learned into the science class into an art form, where the child transformed Newton's law of gravity into a comic strip. Here, the child imagined what could that scene must have looked like when Newton must have seen the apple falling. So the child drew the apple falling. Then the child drew that Newton is taking the apple, taking back at his home, trying to identify why the apple fell and how he discovered gravity. So just asking children to transform what they know into a form which is a space for them, which really comes as a fun for them, is something very beautiful. This is a beautiful example of critical thinking a child made with what the child knew, what the child learned in science into a visual art form. And at the same time, here the child transformed it into since it was a comic strip, the child titled this comic strip as like Vaat Lag Gayi, and like Newton was like amazed by finding something new, and at the end like Newton is feeling really proud of what Newton has created. So the child also added a lot of emotions to what was created into a comic strip. Yes. At the same time, we have seen communication being built in our children, communication skills of communication being developed in our children. So art is a beautiful form of children being able to communicate verbally as well as non-verbally, because what the child is drawing is in itself a way of communication for what the child has created. It's what the child is creating, putting down on the paper is very unique to that child, and that's how the child is communicating. Someone here in the earlier mentioned like where words do not like a picture represents 1,000 words, like where words fall short, that is where the visuals come into. And we, Kritika also shared something beautiful, like she remembers the cycle of the process of how water cycle looks, but not the text or the steps of how the water cycle happens. Because visuals is something which is very easy to us, and that enables a lot of communication in our children as well. At the same time, we also saw our children sharing with each other, talking about what they are saying, the connections they are making, because once they feel safe, once they think that they want to share something which is very crucial to them, they want to share it with their friends. They want to talk about it with their teachers. So at Saturday Art Class, one of the very crucial factor that we also keep in mind while designing our lessons, while designing our classes, is holding sharing spaces at the end of the classes. Like last 10 minutes of sharing spaces, and that is something which can be brought in for any other subjects and not what is just limited to art class as well. Like creating a space of sharing in the classroom where asking simple questions. Why have you created this? Why do you think so? Why based questions. Knowing more about the thought process of the child helps the child to share what the child really thinks. Next, please. Yes, here on the right is a beautiful picture from one of our art classrooms where the educator is holding a sharing space with the children, where we can see the child holding up the artwork and sharing what the child had created. But what is beautiful here to see is all the other children listening to that child. I can see the smile on each and every child's face, which also shows that the other children in the classroom are also respecting their friend. They're respecting who is sharing. And that's a beautiful form or an outcome that manifests into a classroom. Just asking simple questions. Can you tell me more about it? Can you tell me what you thought, why you have created, is a great form of communication, and it develops like over the period of time. Children will unconsciously develop that ability to share, to express, to voice out their own thoughts and ideas as well. Along with communication, we have collaboration. So collaboration is something which looks different in a grade 1. It looks different in a grade 2, but it manifests into a space where children come together to create something new. In this picture here, the children are working together to draw something which basically talks about primary colors, but here they are working together so patiently, and the collaboration also comes out in a form in the next slide, please. Where we can create opportunities for children where they talk to each other. They share what they know about each other. Here, in one of a lesson plan, it starts with a process where we divide the classroom into pairs where children talk with each other about things that are very important to them. So initially for the 10 minutes, they just talk about things that are really important to them. They share, hey, mujhe lagta hai ki, I think my parents are really important to me. So they share why the parents are really important to them. So this gives them a space to get to know each other better, to get to know what they think is important to them. post which we ask the pairs, like two children who are working together, to draw something which the friend, to draw all the things that their friend have shared with them. So here, now that both your friends know things that are very important to them, they make a drawing which is a representation of what the friend really thinks is important to them, and likewise. So in this picture, we can see like they have drawn the hivada, like there's jalebi, there's iPhone, the trees, flowers, painting, like multiple things that are really important to them. And these are the things that we don't often go and ask our children. Like we don't go and ask, what do you think is important to you? And like art can enable those spaces. Art can enable spaces for us to also understand our children better, understand what basically what is important to them. It's just one prompt, but this can vary from like, what do you think are your strengths? What do you think? Like, yeah, and it can be about future as well. Like, what do you think how the future will look like? And just putting in certain imagination aspects to it as well. And collaboration can be like children just working together, helping each other. And it starts from basic sharing of materials to sharing their thoughts and ideas. So that's how collaboration can also manifest into the classroom space. Along with that, we have perseverance. So perseverance is something that we identify that our children show when they are engaged in visual arts. And it ranges from just trying, just attempting to create something new, to break free of the barriers that, oh, I cannot do this. This is very difficult. I cannot draw the perfect circle, or ek line banane ke liye bhi mujhe scale chahiye. Like children, when step out of that is when they show perseverance. And it also manifests into different forms, different types into our classrooms. One such beautiful example of that was this child here. So the lesson here that covered about Kurumba art form, which is a tribal, very native art form from the areas of Tamil Nadu, the tribal areas of Tamil Nadu. So when we taught children the Kurumba art form, we gave them a simple prompt. Talk about things that you think are good in your community, and talk about things that you think are not so good in your community. This child wanted to talk about how we as humans are the ones who plant trees, but at the same time, we as humans are the one who cut those trees as well. So on one side, we are watering the trees, we are planting them. On the other side, when not needed, we are the ones who are cutting those trees as well. But a beautiful example of perseverance stood out to us when this child forgot to get the brush, the paint brush, to the class that day. And the child still wanted to do that, want to engage in the classroom with his friends. So he took the pencil, dipped the pencil into the paint, the color, and started like using the pencil as a brush to color the artwork. And that was like just children stepping out of their own, like just finding solutions to their own, like on their own, creating something and just being engaged. And this manifests into something which is an amalgamation of all the outcomes that we talk about. So these are the outcomes that we have consistently seen develop in our children over the years. And this has created a proof point for us that art does enable, art does build this transferable skills for our children. And these skills are soft skills. They are crucial skills that are needed in any space. It's not just limited to a classroom. Skills of communication, collaboration are in need when the child goes into college, when the child goes into a workplace. These are the skills that are in demand in job places, in workforces as well. And just giving spaces to children to build this right from the classroom, right from the young age, like really is crucial for them, because with consistent practice, this leads them to develop the skills and to succeed further in life as well. Now, to talk about bringing creativity into our classrooms, like how can we also enable such creative spaces into our classrooms? And it does not take a lot of time. It's quite very simple. Just adding 10 minutes of time where we are just asking children to draw something which is very unique by giving a simple prompt. For example, one of the prompt can be, I could be a superhero. We can ask the children to draw, like, what do you think if they were a superhero? How would they look like? Like what clothes would they wear? What is the mask they would put, where would they go? This is just a simple example of how kids can step out, imagine something on their own, at the same time draw themselves into a different form of a superhero. And this takes just 10 minutes, just giving the prompt, creating a safe space. Hey, what you are drawing is correct. Like there's nothing right or wrong when it comes to drawing something which is very unique to us. Just creating that space enables the child to do something on their own, and it brings in all the outcomes that we just talked about. Another such example of this can be making something out of the shapes. It's as simple as drawing certain circles on the paper and asking children to draw what could circles be. Some beautiful examples here is like a circle can be a watch, a circle can be a planet, and like other planets are revolving around it. It can be a face, it can be a wheel, it can be anything. And nothing is bound by it being something very specific. It could be an apple. If the child thinks it could be an apple, it's just giving them so space, giving certain prompts, which enables the child to think, to break free of the barriers and just bring in the creative thinking. Another such example could be maybe at the start of the day, like if we are in a classroom space at the start of the day in the morning meeting, or maybe towards the end as well, we can have certain activities which can identity of the day, where children talk about how would they like to be identified for the day. For example, here one of the child shared that I am a butterfly. And like, because the child loves to fly, the child thinks that for today, I am a butterfly. And all the friends called the child as a butterfly and treated her as a butterfly for the entire day. Just having some simple spaces for children to express themselves also brings in a lot of creativity right from the beginning. Like if we want to close out the day on a very high end, having just simple questions of like, what is on my mind right now? The child can draw their face and write 2 or 3 things which is on their mind, or something they learned in the day. If they want to draw something, what is the takeaway that they are taking? It's a simple idea of how we can hold reflection spaces, but bringing in art where the child is creating something. When the child draws their own face, they feel, oh, this is me, I'm drawing this. So it creates a sense of like connection for the child as well. So these are certain basic ideas of like how we can bring in creativity into our classrooms. At the same time, we at Saturday Art Class have also designed a resource. It's a digital book for children called In My Mind. So this book has multiple like array of such activities that I just talked about. Each activity is aligned to a socio-emotional learning outcome as well, where children get the opportunity to talk about their feelings, where they get the opportunity to talk about how they can navigate through their feelings in a form of simple art-based activities as well. And this book can easily be accessed on Saturday Art Class website, as well as it's available on Firki portal as well. Post this webinar, we'll share the e-copy of the book along with certain video resources which can help you facilitate the book with your children. You can ask your children to do the activities from the home as well. Yes. Next. At the same time, how do we create a safe space into our classrooms? That is very crucial when it comes to art, because initially, like if children do not feel like they can break free of those barriers, they can think something with their own, they kind of restrict themselves to like drawing something which is like taught to them, or drawing something which is just which they have seen in a book or which they have seen somewhere else. They need to feel that all ideas are welcome in the space. Children feel a sense of connection, and like the ideas they are sharing, they also want them to be acknowledged. They want them to be encouraged and motivated at the same time. And we also believe that everyone is an artist. When it comes to art, there is no good art or no bad art. The reason for this is because whenever we draw something, it is very unique to us. It is our own representation, our own thoughts, own ideas coming out on the paper. That's why the tagline that I'm talking about, like everyone is an artist and there is no good art or bad art is very crucial for the children to make them feel safe, make them feel part of the classroom where like no one is going to judge them. There are no restrictions to like draw the straight line, draw the cross line, or like just color inside. Whatever they do, all ideas are welcome and like they are free to express themselves. Next, please. So at Saturday Art Class, we have also another program, which is Art for Educator program, which is basically our year-long training program where we work with educators. We support the educators in terms of being creative visual arts facilitators on how they can hold visual arts spaces with their children. How can they effectively conduct art for children at the same time develop the outcomes that we talked about in our children, because visual art plays a crucial role in developing these outcomes for our children. And the proof points, we have seen that happening in our classrooms. You all must have seen that happening in your classrooms as well. Just to give you a brief of how the curriculum is designed as well. So the curriculum is designed in terms of where we bring in a lot of inspiration from global artists, Indian artists, as well as various forms of crafts and art forms. We combine it with certain art elements like colors, patterns, value, texture, shapes, and combine it and form a lesson plan along with a prompt, which is more of a self-expression, imagination-based prompt, which enables the children to create something on their own. And each lesson plan is structured in a way where teachers get, where students get the opportunity to think something on their own, to explore the art form, the artwork. They also get a time to imagine and create something on their own. At the same time, as I said, the 10 minutes of the sharing space is something where all of that is included. Yes. So this brings us to like if you have any questions for us, we would love to have more discussion further on this as well, of like how we can bring this further for all our children.
Hi, I have a question. Priyanjali this side. Can I go ahead?
Yes, please.
Yeah, I was asking that I am really intrigued by your Arts for Educators program, and I'm really interested in, bringing visual arts in my own classrooms. I am a Slam Out Loud fellow, and I engage with arts on the daily basis. So, how should we sign up for the Arts for Educators program? If you can give us like an explanation for that. Thank you.
I can take that up. So thank you, Priyanjali, for your question. I'm going to put down my email ID at the end of this session. So please feel free to write to me and I can address your questions, or how do you want to take the collaboration ahead? Anything that you want to talk in terms of Art for Educator, I'm just going to drop in my email ID in the chat box, and then we can have a conversation post the webinar.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
No problem. Tasneem, also, if you could help us with the questions that are.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, Kritika. So we have one question from Aruna Kumar. I am wondering, in the age education where the taboos are losing its weight due to artists in various fields are visible, do one need to bring awareness about art and its relevance?
So just to answer your question, these taboos in terms of art or maybe artists, I think they're all put down from us, so to say, from the society. Does one need to bring awareness about art and its relevance? I think yes, because whatever we are, I believe it's through art. Our culture is through art. If you take away history, there will be literally nothing except for some people and some pages. But art is what brings our culture alive, what brings us together. And for us to keep that relevance alive is very, very important. And like Tanushree was speaking while she's explaining different skills that she brought about, I think these can be beautifully brought about in our education system through visual arts. So let me know if ma'am, let me know if I answer your question. And if you have further questions, please feel free to ask. Tanushree, if you want to add in something, just jump right on.
Yes.
One more question from Aruna,
Yeah.
Aruna Kumar itself. How do one create atmosphere where adults are stuck in the mindset about art? For example, elephant I tried, the elephant I have seen, and not the other way using lines or etc.
Yeah, I would like to take this further. So basically, I love how it's written, how to break mindset for adults, because this mindset doesn't come for children. It's the adults because of how we have also grown up. Like for me personally, growing up for me, art was like drawing that nature, drawing with the mountains, with the river, with the sun, like there's a chota house with the triangle roof. That's the first image of art. It came to me as a child because that is what I was taught. And that is how our art was perceived in our systems as well. But that narrative is changing with the time, where art is now seen as a way of expression, a way of creativity for everyone. And for breaking this barrier or the mindset for adults is a simple way. There's a simple way. It's by experiencing it. Experience it as we would want our children to experience. Like, for example, Kritika, when shared this in the beginning as well, like drawing an elephant without being told like you can break free of the barriers, you have to imagine something own, and then drawing something different. It creates that space. It created an experience for everyone that, hey, I can think something as well. I can think something out of this. And that's a simple experiential space that we can create for everyone to feel safe to create something on their own.
Thank you, Tanushree. I hope, Aruna Kumar, that answered your questions. We have one question from Ganyu. If I'm pronouncing the name right, I'm sorry if I'm not. Can you please give examples of art exercises or activities for children between 1.5 to 4 years old?
So just to help you with the art activities for 1.5 to 4 years, 1.5 is too small an age group. Maybe you can give them colors and give them a sheet of paper and just ask them to scribble their heart out. And post that, if you want to have like a quick short discussion as to what colors they used, why did they use those colors, what is something that they were thinking about, could be one of the activities that you could introduce to a 1.5-year-old or a 2-year-old child, because that will also help their gross motor skills. They'll be well versed with writing, drawing, scribbling is something that we also want to build in that age. When it comes to year 3 and year 4, I think they are a bunch of curious humans who really want to learn a lot, know a lot. They have a lot of questions to ask. So with them, you can actually give them certain prompts like Tanushree mentioned earlier, where you probably just draw a line for them and then you ask them to expand on that line, and they can be as creative as they want. One recommendation or suggestion for this age group would be that all of us come with certain mindsets. We come with a certain idea of art is supposed to be this way. I think this is the best age where we let them free, we let them loose and make sure that they draw whatever they feel like drawing without judging them, without questioning them. That's where we can actually boost the whole concept of arts in that child. I hope I've supported you with some activities.
Thank you, Kritika. We have one question from Iram Jahan. Does art help in learning other subjects, and how can we specifically incorporate art into literacy education?
So yes, you can incorporate art for a bunch of things. It could be numeracy, it could be literacy. In the chat box, I read somebody mentioned that you can use Rangoli as a format to introduce math to students. When you do a literacy concept with students, one thing that we learn from our experiences where teachers actually ask students to kind of, so giving you an example is we have an activity at Saturday Art Class where for grade 1 to grade 2 students, we ask them to actually use the first letter of their alphabet. First letter of their name, and put it on a piece on the paper and just draw whatever comes to their mind with that alphabet. So one thing, when they put that alphabet, it also helps them understand the spatial nuances of that paper. How big do they want to draw it? How small do they want to draw it? Helping them understand capital letters, small letters, all gets into that. Another thing with older kids, when we want to help them understand literacy concepts, we ask them to use a concept of storyboarding. So sometimes it's difficult for students to imagine certain aspects. So if they have to put something on paper, or if they have to write an essay or an autobiography of anything, typically we ask them to create a storyboard where we ask them to think of themselves to be that particular thing and put it on paper. And once they've put it on paper through their storyboard, where they've drawn it, colored it, put elements in it, after that we ask them to then start writing it in their notebooks in form of a autobiography or an essay or anything that they are actually writing. Tanushree, if you want to add anything, please go ahead.
No, like we saw one beautiful example culminating into the form of comic strip, where children took a certain kind of knowledge and converted into a visual art form, which also helped other children to understand that concept better. And I always used to remember as a child, like we were asked to make charts and posters, which was basically a visual representation of the knowledge that we are consuming, the knowledge that we are getting, and putting it out in a visual form, like using a lot of diagrams. Someone here is sharing, like drawing the outline of the body part and identifying different shapes and make associations with that. Like certain textbooks already have a lot of visual representation. It's also creating that space for children to make their own connections with that as well. And these are just simple basic nuances. Like for younger grades, like whenever I remember the alphabet A, image of apple comes to my mind, because A for apple is something which was always taught to me. And these are certain basic things. So like just associating an apple, how the apple looks, the color of the apple to the alphabet is how we start integrating visual arts right from the beginning as the children grow up, to then making comic strips, storyboards, and like using a lot of diagrams to represent their thought processes, using mind maps to represent their thought processes as well.
Thanks so much for so many ideas for literacy, because that is something where everyone feels confused, right? Thanks, both of you. Neha Sharma has asked, how will you teach online?
We're thoda sa confused about that question. Teach online in what aspect? If Neha could just elaborate that question for us, would be really, really helpful.
Neha, can you please explain the question once, please? We can wait for Neha to get back, and the next question we have is very
What
similar.
happened? What
Neha,
you
can you
saying,
please?
Neha?
Can you hear us,
I
Neha?
actually, I got disconnected. So I would be thankful if you repeat what you were asking.
All right. Can you please explain your question, Neha, once?
Okay. Ma'am was sharing that about the educators art one. So that was my question. Like, what medium will you use? What is the process? How it would happen? So if we have proper information, then we'll proceed with the next, because it's very interesting. It's first class, and I think everybody is enjoying it. So that's what I wanted to know more about it.
So Neha, just to answer your question, it depends on the education organization or institute that we partner with. It depends on how they want us to kind of take the training forward with the educators. If they want it online, it will be an online training. If they feel that there is a need for an in-person training, we're more than happy to come in person and capacitate or train the educators to take art in their classrooms.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Neha.
Thanks, Neha. So we have one similar question. Do you have any ideas for art in the early years, 3 to 6 years old? We covered 1.5 to 4. If it is any different from that, any other ideas maybe you can share?
So we do have a curriculum for, say, senior KG to junior KG kids as well. And that is the plans are basically crafted keeping their cognitive ability in mind. So for grade 1 to grade 8, they are more of 60-minute activities. But for senior KG and junior KG kids, they're more of, say, half an hour activity, because that's how much they can actually take in their cognitive minds. For grade 3 and not grade 3, for senior KGs and junior KG kids, a lot of our curriculum focuses on helping them learn different shapes, sizes, lines, different types of lines that are there, primary colors, secondary colors, and just with that, coming together to create something. Like one of the activity that Tanushree introduced was, what do I identify myself as? So for a senior KG or a junior KG child, I might be able to identify to a lot of things, and to be able to help them imagine that part for themselves are type of activities that are crafted for senior KG, junior KG kids. Even the what if I was a superhero activity, or what if I had a magic pencil, what could I draw, what would my magic pencil look like, are some sort of activities that are a part of curriculum created for senior KG and junior KG kids. However, it keeps increasing, the rigor keeps increasing based on the age and the grade of the child.
Got it. Thanks, Kritika. We have one question about the art book that you were talking about. Can we bring this digital art book into our classrooms? How do we bring it?
Absolutely, absolutely. So this art book is easily available on the Firke portal as well as the website of Saturday Art Class. But post this webinar as well, we'll be sharing an e-copy of that book along with certain video resources. So those video resources are narrated by a facilitator, which will help you to you can just look at the video, like just get a gauge of understanding of that activity and just implement that activity with the children. At the same time, children themselves can look at those videos and do the activity on their own at home.
Got it. Thank you. That's really helpful. Meena Nayak has asked that she's a science teacher. Can you give a few examples of how to combine science and art? I myself love art. So yeah, for Meena.
So one of the examples I actually used in the beginning of the webinar was of water cycle. A lot of science topics are related to visual arts. I mean, they are all visual in nature, be it a human body. Somebody mentioned that they draw the outline of a human body to help the students understand or learn about different organs that are a part of the human body, helping them place where they are, what is the size, what is the shape, how do they look, is one way. So you can use a huge chart paper, and you can actually club your class in group of 4. So each group will have 4 people in their team, and you give them to draw the body outline. You ask them to draw various organs in the human outline, so that it's also visual for them, and they're also drawing as they are learning about it. Similarly, when you're explaining a scientific definition, so to say, if it's a water cycle definition, instead of reading it out from the textbook word to word definition of what it means, it could be easier if you just draw it on your board, or have a pictorial representation of any way, so that you ask students to decipher what they think about the image that you've put up. So instead of you giving up all the information on water cycle, you can ask them to share what this image stands for them, or what are they learning from this image, or what are certain things that they are understanding from what you've put up, which will also then help them build their own understanding of what a water cycle looks like. How are they going to explore things in their surrounding, rather than just handing over some information to them. Tanushree, if you want to add on something, please.
No, thank you. Yeah, but that makes sense. Just converting text into visuals is the key. Mm-hmm.
Got it. There is one question on, can you please explain, sir, certain ideas again stuck with colors, for example, pink. Aruna Kumar, if you can explain that question a little bit, it will be helpful. All right. If I think that's an internet. Yep, I'm not in. Yes. Aruna Kumar sir, if you can.
Yeah, I'm just checking my audio. So, am I audible, please?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, there is another, again, the taboo related to the colors. Particularly, the minute I say pink, is immediately people get into the girls, not somebody else. Are there any way that any color can be used, or is there anything that one needs to understand about colors as well?
I think as humans and for all of us who live in a country where colors mean a lot to everybody, I think we need to start decoding colors and associating colors with certain things. And I think the biggest example that comes to my mind is don't wear black when you're going out for a good occasion. It's not good. It's going to bring bad luck. So it starts with us. And the minute we start breaking that taboo for our students is where it'll all start falling in place. If we want to break ideas of colors, I think we can just start by saying that colors don't represent anything. Colors, for example, for a lot of us, yellow can represent happiness, red can represent anger. But for me, it could be red represents happiness and yellow represents anger. So how can we break those ideas with the notion of things that are attached to colors so that we don't stick with the conventional thought of pink hai to ladki hai, green hai to kuch aur hai, blue hai to ladka hai. So how do we start from us to then breaking it to our students or to other people around us?
Yeah, thank you.
There is one, thank you so much, sir, for that question. There is one interesting question. How do we work with children who don't like drawing?
I think I am one of the biggest examples of students who do not like drawing. And thanks, and this is all thank you to the education system that we've all been a part of. But in our experience, when we work with students who really don't like to draw, we believe in giving them agency to choose what they want to do. Sometimes they really don't want to be a part of it and they're not in the mood. And as educators, I think the first thing that we should also be doing is respecting what they want, because forcing something onto them never gets the result that we want. But through our experience, we've realized the more we tell them, hi, it's okay, you don't want to do, you can sit in class, you can observe what other people are doing. Or if there's a group discussion happening, we eventually end up saying, okay, you can give some ideas if you don't want to draw, but you can be a part of the group. And slowly, when they see that, other kids are having fun, they're enjoying, or their ideas are incorporated by the group, they slowly start liking art. And also as educators, we really need to break that whole thing of, you don't draw well, you can't draw, you can't color. This is something that actually puts a block on a child's mind ki jab mujhe aata hi nahi hai to main karu hi kyun. So that's something we as educators really need to focus on. How can we create that safe space where students come up willingly, show you what they have drawn with a lot of pride and joy in their heart.
Thank you so much, Kritika, for beautifully putting that out. We have Priyanjali, who has been raising hand for quite some time. So Priyanjali, if you can share your question off mute, it will be helpful.
Hi, thank you. I wanted to ask, would you be able to share few examples from your class experiences where visual arts have been helpful, especially to children who have learning disabilities or neurodevelopmental challenges? Have you come across such children, and if in case arts has helped them to sort of communicate better? Thank you.
So we do have experience working with students who are differently abled, and for us it is a very new area to understand how students learn, how differently abled children want to actually learn or engage in art. One thing that we've noticed is when you break down a lot of instructions for them, it gets very simple. So we did an activity with them, which was a mosaic based activity. And we asked them to think about one friend who they're really, really close to and draw a flower, put it into the whole mosaic format and just write the name of their friend. We realized that there was not one participant or one child who did not do the activity. So for us, when our experience suggests and says that when you have activities which are simple for a differently able child to understand, if the activity is broken down into sections, timed properly, if there is a pair activity happening where you're asking that child to pair up with somebody who will in turn act as a support for that child, really, really helps boost the whole visual arts interest or aspect for that person who wants to do it in the class.
Right.
So for
Thank
us,
you.
it has been very, very successful to see students engage in art, even however difficult the concept has been.
Correct. Thank you. Thank you.
We will pause there for like a minute. So in case, first of all, thank you so much, Kritika and Tanushree, for joining us today and giving such beautiful ideas to integrate art and emotional learning in classrooms. The audience also, thank you so much for being such a responsive and amazing, creative audience today. So if any of you don't have any more questions, there is a feedback form that is put on chat box. Please do take few minutes to fill the feedback form. Once you fill it, you'll be able to access your attendance certificate for the webinar today. With that, we have a couple of more questions. I'll just go forward with it. One, how does art affect one's emotions? The second one is, any specific ideas for art who attend the class online? That is age group of 5 to 15. If they attend online classes, how do we teach them art? Yeah.
Can you repeat the first question? Is it about emotions, right?
Yes, emotions. How does art affect emotions?
Okay. So first of all, as I talked about, joy as an experience is something that we identified from our classrooms. So in one of the research study that we conducted, we also identified that in the classrooms where children said that they don't feel joy, they don't feel happy, were also the classrooms where children lacked on critical thinking, they lacked on communication, collaboration. Vis-a-vis on the classrooms, we saw children saying that they feel happy, they feel joyous, where joy was experienced as a whole. Those were also classrooms where children were really high on collaboration, critical thinking, communication, perseverance, those skills. So one, we identified a straight connection between joy as an emotion, joy as an experience, to building other skills, building other outcomes. But at the same time, bringing in different emotions into the classroom and giving the space for the child to express themselves about what they are feeling, what they think they want to feel, or like why they are feeling behind certain feeling. It's a great medium. And it can be, like, in my mind, is an excellent resource where each chapter is divided into child understanding feelings. Like, for example, anger. What does anger mean to me? What do I do when I feel angry? What can I do when I feel angry so that I don't feel angry anymore? And these activities are broken down into different steps, different 10-minute, 20-minute activities that the child can do based on their own time, based on how they want to do it as well. So one such activity of like talking about anger is asking the child to stand in front of a mirror and just drawing how they look like when their face is angry, when they feel anger, and just drawing about it, letting the child understand what does anger look like. Like, my pupils are like, my eyebrows are raised, or maybe I'm not smiling, or like my face is in a frowning face. The child first starts about talking about emotions, talking about what the feeling is, and then move on to talking about like, what can I do when I'm angry? So I would definitely recommend like everyone to access the In My Mind resource. Each feeling, each emotion is clearly broken down in that. Along with that, the next question of like how to teach art virtually, like when students are into an online space or virtual space, I would recommend following the same process, like just creating that virtual space as a safe space, encouraging children, like even if it's virtual, encouraging children to get the materials that are needed, like basic pen, paper, pencils, and just feeling safe, like feeling that they have the ability to create something on their own. Just reiterating or creating that safe space virtually also works. Like it's using the similar prompts that we would use in a classroom, we can use the same virtually. At the same time, just ensuring that the children are engaged, giving them